Welcome back to the movie dome. The dome where all the movies throw down and really get to the gory center that's at all movies' hearts. Casey, talk to me about the anatomy of a movie.
It's the ori gory, ooey gooey, chewy, newy movie podcast.
There's a lot of stuff in a movie you can just bite into for lots of brain food.
Yeah.
And by listening to this podcast, we're giving you that brain food for free.
Absolutely free. And y'all should be thankful.
Also, it's Joe Biden's America, okay? Anything's
That's
possible.
true. Today,
you're welcome.
Today is Inauguration Day.
We'll only be 1 week late to it when you hear this.
Yeah. So if something happens
you're welcome.
at Inauguration Day, we won't talk about it till next week.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's only the most, scary, threatened event in history right now. People are legitimately terrified that we're going to get another Capitol riot. And, I mean, we just simply don't know right now. Right. We're in the past. So we don't know if that happened. I personally bet it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of security.
Yeah.
There.
Also, Trump's not even going to be at the inauguration. He's already flown back to Florida this morning.
Class act right there. Thanks, Don. Mike Pence stayed, though. He's like, I'll watch it at least. And that's kind of always been the dynamic between them is Mike Pence is a horrible human being who supports gay conversion therapy.
Yeah.
But at least whenever the Hamilton cast talks to him, he goes, yeah, they were cool because I have composure and some respect for political office. So,
True.
I don't know. He sucks, but he's better than Trump. But that's a very low bar, you know?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I was just thinking about the bar for, being better than Trump, but it's not. Well, anyway, speaking of Trump, we have a good episode for you today. But before we get into that, I would just like to mention a couple of things.
Oh, yes.
One,
mention.
We have a new Twitter account.
Yeah, we have a new Twitter. It's at MindOverMovies2.
Yeah.
Because you can't ever come up with an original name without a number in it anymore, you know?
Well, okay, so when I created it didn't even give me the option to pick my username. It just threw that at me. And I was like, okay.
Really?
Yeah, I created the Twitter account, and then it was like, your handle is at MindOverMovies2. And I was like, why? That's so stupid.
I feel like we're living in the shadow of our predecessors, the other Mind Over Movies podcast
that had 6 episodes.
I found on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, we've trounced them now. We're 9 episodes in. It's okay. You know. No, we're 10 episodes.
No, this is number 10, dude. Wait, no.
Wow.
Wait, is it? Or am I just dumb?
Yeah, it is number 10.
Wow. Wait a minute. No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Star Wars was last week. That was number 9. This is number 10.
Oh, my Lord, you are correct.
Right?
Well, guys.
That's insane.
It's episode 10 of the Mind Over Movies podcast. How do y'all feel? Tell us in the comments.
Or in the Twitter replies.
Or on the Twitter replies. Yeah, we got to get that Twitter up. But second thing I wanted to mention was that I finally got around to... Oh, wait, I've watched 2 things. So, okay, I've got around to watching Wonder Woman 1984.
Nice.
And can I say, having the magic conch shell as a villain, bold move. Now, I won't say too much about Wonder Woman 1984 since we've already gotten into it, but here's just a little tidbit of my extended thoughts. I don't understand why it's called 1984. That's just the time that it was set in. It has nearly nothing to do with the actual movie.
Yeah, surprisingly tame on the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's not even really any 80s music
I know.
in the
And
movie. That was a little bit of a
I
bummer.
know, and I remember when it came out, the first reviews were like, "Oh, she captures the '80s perfectly," and I'm just like, I mean, sure, but it's not that impressive anymore because every movie about the '80s or every movie about any decade is captured pretty well nowadays. If you're doing like a period piece, so this is not a period piece, obviously, but it's still, I mean, it's the '80s. We get it, and they did an okay job, but not but the title made me think of anyway
That we were really leaning into the 80s, or
yeah
like maybe we were touching on the George Orwell novel. I don't know. Like 1984 has such a significance, that date, and now it's just like, oh, it's not really all that important to the movie. Also, here's the plot of Neverending Story 2.
right
And Kristen Wiig is there for some
right
reason.
but yeah, I was gonna say I actually like Kristen Wiig's performance in this movie. I don't think she did half bad as Cheetah.
I think it's definitely like an issue with the material she was given. Like, it's kind of in the same way that Jamie Foxx isn't all that bad in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But like, what is that character? Like, this is an archetype now in superhero
Literally.
movies, with the awkward fan character becoming the bad guy by the end. And I think it's only ever really worked well in The Incredibles, you know?
Yeah. I was like, when the movie started and I saw Kristen Wiig's character, I just turned to like Luke and I was like, I get it now. She's Jamie Foxx from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And he was like, oh, well, should we turn it off? And I was like, nah, we'll watch it. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely some cliches. There was the campiness is fun at some times, but it gets really cheesy towards the end. And the criticisms, I can only imagine that when they went in to when they gave Patty Jenkins notes about the first movie, they must have said that Wonder Woman didn't use the whip enough, because now that's all she uses in this movie.
Lasso.
Literally.
Lasso, sir.
Lasso, sorry.
Not whip.
Not whip.
Jeez.
I'm sorry, guys. My Wonder Woman lore and...
What really confuses me about this one is Patty Jenkins co-wrote it, and like, you would think, maybe that was one of the problems with the first movie, is that the director didn't have a hand in the screenplay, and it could be even better with her involvement. But apparently her ideas for the screenplay was that Wonder Woman will spend the whole movie mourning over her mans from like 60 years ago, which does not track for this character. Like, I don't buy it. Like, Wonder Woman has so much going for her. Why would she still be hung up on this one guy from like World War One? Like, I didn't believe it. And then also, Steve Trevor's appearance in this movie is like completely bizarre. It's like a fever dream. The way they bring him back for this movie is just crazy from like a moral standpoint, and also from like a logistical standpoint. Why was it this way?
Yeah. And I mean, the whole, like, I mean, no spoilers, but the scene where she makes the decision, it's not because of the moral dilemma that came with bringing him back. It's just because of all the stuff that was happening, like, in the world, like, since she made the thing. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that still hasn't seen it, that wants to, but it's just so goofy, like the whole idea of the movie and the villain is so goofy.
It could have worked. Like, I don't know. I feel like especially if they embraced the 80s thing they had going for them, the villain could have worked, because he's like totally
an 80s
commentary
villain.
on the excess of the 80s too. Like, and that works well, but like, they play it so seriously, and like it transcends like camp, and it's just bad.
They play it safe too. Like, I'm if they would have went full in 80s like aesthetic, like completely, I think I would have had a much better time with the movie. But Either way, as it stands, the first Wonder Woman is still entirely way leagues ahead better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some. I can't even say that I wasn't starting to get bored throughout some of this. Like,
No, it feels like it's 5 hours long.
I know,
Like,
and there's not even that many fight
It's two and a
scenes.
half.
Yeah, there's 2.5.
Well, they I feel like they only added in Kristen Wiig, so there would be one more fight scene. Because there's like the one in the mall, there's one with the really bad green screen and her running, and then there is the ending, which, I mean, no spoilers or anything, but they've put like a night filter on it to cover up like bad CGI, and it's just like embarrassing that is the climactic fight of the movie. Like, that's supposed to be the big throwdown for Wonder Woman. Like, really? This?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's
disappointing, man. Just all around disappointing movie, because I really do like the first Wonder Woman.
I do
like,
too.
I thought that was one of the better DC movies.
Yeah.
Well, DCEU.
Right.
To clarify.
Well, yeah, Wonder Woman 84. It's all right, but I did watch something that I was a little bit more impressed with.
Ooh, what?
We started watching WandaVision on Disney Plus.
Ooh, oh my God! I still haven't seen the first 2 episodes. I feel like I've failed. Like, every podcast is definitely going to be like, "Oh, WandaVision this week," and I'm just gonna have to ask you to not spoil it.
No, you're good. I won't spoil anything or say too much about it, but I will say that I'm very pleased, and my expectations were pretty subverted with, how they're doing this. Like, it doesn't, the show doesn't completely stand on its own, obviously, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like way too big right now. Not that they introduced any like characters from the MCU. It's just there's like references like all the time to other stuff. Like, this isn't a spoiler, but like they do like a commercial at one point. Like in the episode, it like fades out and goes to like its own like commercial in black and white and everything, and it's about like a new toaster oven from Stark Industries. So there's like little things like that in there that I knew they couldn't help but just add in there. But no, like Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, their performances, absolutely amazing. What they're doing. With the time periods of the shows that it goes in. Like, I believe the first episode was like the 40s or 50s, and then the second episode was like the 60s. And the second episode I really like because it's like shows a transition in like sitcom television era.
Yeah, something that maybe our generation would be more familiar with. Like, I've definitely thought, watching the previews, like, a lot of us aren't going to get, like, the 40s and 50s aspect. Like, maybe some of our parents have made us watch, like, Leave It to Beaver or...
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
Yeah. And I could definitely, like, I remember, like, watching those old shows and then watching that first episode. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. They did this pretty well. And, yeah, I mean, and obviously there's an overarching like narrative to the entire thing that like trickles in a couple times in each episode, and it's building like so much like mystery, and it's really cool. Like, I cannot wait to see where this series goes, honestly. Mini series, I should rather say, is only going to be 9 episodes. Which I'm fine with. I've decided, because the story has intrigued me enough, I highly recommend you jump on it whenever you can. Maybe wait till this Friday, though, when the 3rd episode comes out, so you can watch like all 3 episodes. And they're only half-hour episodes. They're not long at all.
I probably will wait till the 3rd one comes out. I don't know. I might give in and watch it today, though, since there's nothing but time on my hands.
True.
Unless, that crazy Trump supporter really does moon Joe Biden during his inauguration. Then I might have to turn on the news cycle, find out what's going on. Dude, speaking of the news cycle, I watched... well, this is not a very good transition, but I watched a Cary Grant movie last week, or this week, we were supposed to have a Cary Grant-a-thon. It didn't quite work out that way, but I watched the Philadelphia Story. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have heard it. I've just never seen it.
It's like this really charming like play essentially that about like Katharine Hepburn, and she divorces Cary Grant, and she's set to marry this new guy, and like on the eve of her wedding, Cary Grant comes back and is like playing up some angle, and he brings some like reporter friends who have blackmail on Katharine Hepburn's dad, and like honestly, I feel like I'm kind of spoiling some of the movie already, so I would just say that it's one of the funnier like older movies I've seen in a long time, and I thought it was really fantastic. Philadelphia Story is a must, and also it's worth noting that it was remade into a Frank Sinatra led film.
Mm-hmm.
No, the guy from White Christmas, Bing Crosby led film.
Okay.
Yeah, High Society, which features Frank Sinatra and Grace Kelly. So
Dope.
that one apparently isn't as good, but Philadelphia Story, solid.
Only Philadelphia movie I've seen is Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington.
I haven't seen that one.
Okay,
but
it's
he did win the Oscar.
He
Yeah.
did. It's a good movie. Like actually, I don't think there's anything too problematic with it. I mean, it's like the first. I believe I read something about it being the first movie to feature a homosexual character that made so much money at the box office or got so many awards or something like that. So,
yeah, it feels kind of bold to cover AIDS, in film form at that time. Like I know
1994, I believe.
Tony Kushner had already written Angels in America for the stage at that point, but and I think Philadelphia Story is 1990. I mean, no, Philadelphia is 1993 because then he went on to win Forrest Gump in '94. Best actor for that.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah.
But on top of Philadelphia Story, I watched two other movies, and I don't have much to say about Empire Strikes Back other than it still is like maybe the best sequel ever made, or a top contender for that title. And I got to see it at the drive-in for the first time, which was incredible.
Oh, which drive-in did you go to?
Oh, there's one in Little Rock.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There's a church that does it there, and it's really good. I love going there. Ken and I have gone a few times. But yeah, dude, it was the ultimate experience. Other than my car speakers, they can't really handle bass anymore, so they're like during any kind of like action scene.
Right.
So, go with better car speakers if you go.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a point of shame for me, but as a child, I never finished Jaws all the way through.
Really?
Because it was too scary for me. And I don't think I had watched it all the way through as an adult. Like, I've caught the ending on TV a few times, but I just watched Jaws all the way through from start to finish for the first time this week, and it is even better than I thought, Like, right there is a perfectly crafted, like, blockbuster. And I guess I just never realized, like, how shitty the mayor from Jaws was until I watched the whole thing.
Yep.
That guy's evil,
He
dude.
is.
The fact that he's reelected in Jaws 2 is one of America's worst failings in this democracy, in this republic. That guy should not have come back.
Dude.
But no, dude, Jaws is incredible. I really can't believe that it took me this long to watch it completely,
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I love Jaws. That's one of the first movies that got me into filmmaking as a hobby and later a career path. Jaws is a very near and dear film to me. I think it's one of those perfect films. I love it. I love it so much. Jaws is great.
It definitely made me think, like, this is on par with Jurassic Park. In terms of Spielberg's works, like, this is just a perfect little movie. Like, I would say he's got so many movies like that. Like, the whole Indiana Jones trilogy, because it's a trilogy of perfect movies. There's a fourth one, but it's not in that caliber,
Right.
obviously. that E.T., and then Jaws and Jurassic Park are like all of his like perfection. Like those movies are just so pure, and like even though there's flaws in there, they're just like movies for people who love movies, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not saying that like he hasn't made any other like great movies. I'm just saying this is like probably what I think is his cream of the crop right there.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, Spielberg has a great career. Like he's got a lot of great movies, but Jaws is what got him on the map, and it's what really, he started the whole blockbuster trend with Jaws. Jaws was one of the first movies to be classified as like this summer blockbuster, and then obviously Star Wars as well. But I mean, yeah, it's a great movie. It's high art and it's a blockbuster, and it's great. I love it.
Speaking of art,
I was about to say, speaking of high art,
I saw some pretty high art recently. That's pretty topical.
what'd you watch?
To today.
What'd you watch?
Well, I watched the this little indie feature called The Trump Prophecy.
Oh, really?
And this has got to be one of the most interesting movies I've ever seen. This is a Christian feature, believe it or not. Like this is
Believe it or not,
completely this is completely backed by like a church. Like everyone involved seems to like go to church together, and even this Letterboxd review I have pulled up of it is from a man who claims that he's best friends with everyone. I'll read a little excerpt from this. Okay, so to preface this, my criticisms are not at all directed towards the people who worked on this film, which includes many of my best friends. I love you guys, but this is probably the worst film I've ever seen. Not really a film as much as a collection of short films, some of which have no connection to each other. Part 1, a firefighter gets PTSD and makes prophecy. Part 2, firefighter's doctor's wife hears about it and starts a weird prayer chain and introduces the shofar, which is a Jewish ram horn. Part 3, shofar compilation. Part 4, Trump gets elected and the prophet boy and prayer chick are hype. Part 5, a literal music video about veterans. Part 6, 25 minutes of interviews with random people I've never heard of, and also Michelle Bachmann. And I hate to say it, but that is the feature on display here. There's shockingly little of Donald Trump in a movie named The Trump Prophecy. Like I definitely went into this expecting greatness because the trailer really strikes at the core. Christians prayed Trump into office by God, and here's the inspiring story behind it. And it's a lot more boring than you'd think. Mm-hmm. Like there's a little bit of action at the start. The guy is a firefighter, and I don't know, like some generic little kid dies on the job, and he's like, oh God, I can't take it. And so he starts dreaming about Satan, and he quits his job as a firefighter. But then one day, and I wish I was making this up, but one day he falls asleep on his couch watching TV, and like Donald Trump is like speaking, and he wakes up. Like they don't even attempt to like show God in this movie, which I don't know if that's like a creative choice or a budgetary choice, but he wakes up and just starts writing in his journal, and the worst voiceover I've heard and like since Blade Runner comes in, and it's like, God spoke to me last night, and he said, the next commander-in-chief is the voice you're hearing. And then he just in case we didn't get it as the audience, he writes the next line, Donald Trump will be the next president. And what amazed me is that this movie ignores how people actually reacted to that like possibility.
Yeah.
Which is they laughed at it and hoped that every other Republican nominee would get nominated instead of Trump.
Right. Before
Reluctantly giving in to him. Like in this movie, they like to pretend that Trump was the favorite of pure Christians the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, there's like and again, there's hardly any Trump, but what they do have of him, it's not like inspirational at all. Like they play a clip of him in like the early debates of the 2016 election, and the other Republicans are like roasting him about like his taxes, like how no one knows like his tax records and stuff, or how he just came into money. And they're all valid points against Trump,
Right.
but the movie's not disputing that. They just go, wow, those other guys are being so mean to Trump. Does he even have a shot at winning?
Oh my Lord.
And yeah, there's like maybe 2 minutes of Trump. There's at least 10 music videos in this movie. Like it's not even all to do with like the troops. There's like a music video. The main character is like, I'm gonna go to the shed and look at Dad and I's old boat. And then he goes to the shed, and this Christian music starts playing, and he like, for 4 minutes you just see him unveil the boat. He looks at the boat, he gets in the boat, he has a flashback about his dad and him in the boat. And it doesn't tie back to anything.
In the boat.
It's just the boat. And I mean, for a movie called The Trump Prophecy, I thought it was pretty heavy-handed that the side of the boat says Reagan Bush 1984. I don't know.
Oh no.
I was like, oh man, this is a political movie.
My
it had been
goodness.
so boring that I forgot that it was called The Literal Trump Prophecy. No, but I think, you know, while I could dissect everything that happened in this movie, I want to use it as an example of something I've noticed, which is that Christian movies have gotten so bad, and this is just like the worst low that they could sink to. I feel like this solidifies that Christian movies have been sinking in quality, and that they have now hit the bottom of the ocean. Like,
Right.
Windows is mad at you.
Yeah, I
it
know.
sounds like.
Stupid little. Ugh. Anyway.
But I thought it would be interesting to do an episode today where we track, you know,
Yeah.
trick Christian movies, you know, where they started from a point of prestige to now.
Yeah.
Which is the Trump prophecy and the likes of like God's Not Dead. Like I feel like that's a very interesting journey.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's start this off with. I think really the first movie we have to look at, or one of two movies when tracking movies, Christian themes, or not even themes, like straight up Christian movies. You'd have to look at the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur. I can't remember which one comes first. I know Ben-Hur was 1959. And let me just see real quick what.
I think Ten Commandments might have been a little bit before.
Yeah,
I'm not
1956.
sure. Yeah, so the interesting thing about Ten Commandments is that this director came back and remade a movie that he already did about Moses. Like, he was like, this movie about Moses isn't good enough. I need to do another. And at the time, it was like one of the most critically acclaimed movies ever. It was just this massive epic about Moses, and Charlton Heston is like the perfect choice.
Yeah.
Other than being a white guy, is the perfect choice
Yeah, true.
to play Moses. I mean, for the 50s, that's like fine.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like we should hold our religious movies to a higher standard if we're gonna like, cast our people. But
definitely. And it was an Academy Award winning movie. The Ten Commandments was, and to think about that, like I know a lot of like Christians I know now they complain about like Christian movies, they never get nobody ever like gives them any press. They don't go on to win like awards like other secular movies, and I just point them back about 70 years behind. I'm like, well, the reason is probably something went wrong here, because we have the Ten Commandments, which is a piece of cinematic history that has some it has standards, like the whole like interesting little funny little tidbit here, the parting of the Red Sea scene was filmed in Paramount Studios backlot, and when I visited Paramount Studios in LA several years back, I got to see what is now a parking lot. Used to be a full sized like pool, and how they shot the parting of the Red Sea scene there. And what they did was they like there was like a mechanism to like fill up the pool with water like super fast. So they just basically filmed the scene in reverse. They just flooded the pool with Charlton Heston there, and then in like editing, they just reversed the water flow so it looked like it was parting, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
But since then, that pool that was there has been covered up with cement and turned into like a back lot, like a parking lot. So, but
that's sad.
yeah, no, my tour guide, she was like, this is where they filmed 10 Commandments, and then she told us all about it. I was like, cool. But yeah.
Damn. And the other important 50s movie is Ben-Hur, which I didn't realize also stars Charlton Heston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess he's just he's very hireable at this point in his life.
Definitely.
But he's the title character, Ben-Hur, and this movie, if Ten Commandments is critically acclaimed, this movie is like one of the highest regarded films ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people always refer to Ben-Hur for like its amazing like stunts. Like the chariot race in this movie is famous. It won the Academy Award for Best Picture at the time. It's just one of the most epic in scope movies ever made, and like at the time probably the biggest film ever made. And it's got heart behind it. Like,
yeah.
I hate to admit it, I haven't seen it all the way through.
I've only seen bits and pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been referred to it through like film studies and whatnot, but it seems like it lives up to the hype, and I will definitely be watching it someday. But like, all this to say, like, religious movies in America used to have like stature, and not only stature, but like this claim that Christian movies never get love from the Academy is completely false, because if you look at the history right here, you'll see that like Christian movies dominated the Academy. Like, these two movies were back to back, and both of them won Oscars. You know, both of them were beloved by audiences at the time. Like,
Literally.
this shows that audiences in America are definitely, you know, receptive to these kind of movies, to these Christian movies. Not Ben-Hur 2016, by the way.
No.
Ben-Hur 1959. Let's not even entertain the idea that the remake has fans, you know.
We don't want to be misconstrued here.
No.
The Ben-Hur 1959 version, the 4-hour version, the epic, it won 11 Oscars. Like,
yeah, that wasn't topped until Return of the King.
I don't know if there's been another movie. Yeah. I think so. And it's
because Return of the King won 13. Like,
yeah. Either way, you know, that was a record, for sure. I mean, it blows my mind that we used to have movies like this with a that would literally at its like core was a Christian message, a Christian like theme. Like, Ben-Hur literally gets saved by like Jesus at the end. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
he meets Jesus, they hang out for a little bit. Incredible.
Yeah. Cinematic perfection. But after going from the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur, I'm sure there were other Christian movies in the 50s. I mean, honestly, the 50s, the 30s, 40s, and 50s, all the movies had Christian themes. At least, because it was the old Hollywood. They had the Hays Code, which was the code set by Hollywood. Honestly, set by Christians. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie here, because they they were the gatekeepers of what could be shown on film. And that's why in like early sitcoms they weren't allowed to show the wife and the man in the same bed, so they had to sleep in like two separate beds. And then in film and movies in particular, there was all kinds of restrictions on what could be said and what couldn't be said, and movies were recut and re-edited and reshot into the ground and ruined because of the Hays Code. So we had 30-40 years of that. And yeah, we got some really great movies out of it. Not saying it was all bad. Like, it was a very restrictive code, but there were a lot of great movies. But moving on from that, from Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments, we got stuff like The Passion of the Christ and the Last Temptation of Christ by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah. And I'll argue, Jesus Christ Superstar in the 70s also like Warner's like a lot of love, like not only like on film but like on stage too. Mm-hmm. That's like one of the most critically acclaimed musicals of all time. People really, really dove for Jesus, and that's kind of the first step, I think, because I mean there's like movies like Prince of Egypt that still talked about Moses, mm-hmm. but I think after Ben-Hur, Christian media kind of zeroed in on Christ himself. Mm-hmm. like even Martin Scorsese, couldn't look away. Like Last Temptation of Christ is 3 hours of Jesus
yeah,
resisting temptation.
Yeah. And what I like about Martin Scorsese is that like he makes movies to like either like challenge his beliefs or to explore his own beliefs. He like explores things in his movies pretty well. And with The Last Temptation of Christ, that was basically him exploring his own views on Christianity. I think he's Catholic, I believe, isn't he?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that his generation is mostly Catholic, mm-hmm. anyway.
Yeah. He did that, and he did Silence, which I guess
that's one that people would argue, I guess, is a good modern Christian movie. Like that, there's still some mm-hmm. coming out.
Well, that and Hacksaw Ridge. Are the ones.
Yeah, Mel Gibson Strikes Again.
Mm-hmm. Which, when I was growing up, I heard everybody talk about, The Passion of the Christ being like, I remember my mom always telling me, like, yeah, you can watch that movie when you get a little bit older. It's a little bit too, gory for younger people. And there was even an outrage over that movie by Christians saying that, like, if I do remember correctly, they didn't like it because it was just like the torture scenes for like Jesus being crucified was like too long. And I'm like, but this is what we preach about. About the...
I don't know. I kind of sympathize with people like that because my grandfather really loves this movie. Both my grandparents really love this movie, and they have us watch it at a very young age. Like all my little cousins saw it probably before the age of 8. I think I saw it as soon as it came out back in the day, or it came out on home video, and I think that movie is straight up torture porn for Christians. I don't know, dude. Like, there's like a normal amount of like watching Jesus get beat up mm-hmm. and dunked on, but I don't know, dude. I saw this movie way too young, and I guess it's always kind of skewed my view of it as being a bit excessive. Like, mm-hmm. Sure, the whole religion is founded on the killing of Jesus and him dying for everyone's sins, but like, man, Mel Gibson seems to kind of like relish in that. Like, I don't know. I do appreciate movies. That the whole movie is done like in Hebrew, and mm-hmm. Jim Caviezel is playing like a pretty good, like he's not overdoing it as Jesus. Like I feel like the temptation whenever an actor plays Jesus is to be just like so big with it, so like I am the best person that has ever lived, and
Yeah.
look at me. And I don't know, it was interesting, I guess, to see like this Jesus at his lowest point in that movie. I don't know, I don't like it. And also I wish I hadn't seen it.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've seen like the full movie. Like I haven't. Like I never got to like around to watching it. I want to watch it, but I have seen the scenes of like the torture and the crucifixion and stuff. It's pretty gory stuff. It's pretty. I guess I would agree with you. It's like torture porn. Because like I remember when they like one scene where he like takes a whip to his face and his like eye like pops out. I was like, oh my lord. It's like stuff you would see on Game of Thrones, but it's like for Christians. And it's just crazy to me. Like I really guess like Passion of the Christ was probably like the jumping off point for Christian media like going downhill, because I feel like after Mel Gibson made that, and after the outrage of The Last Temptation of Christ, like Christians did not like that movie for whatever. I can't remember what the reason was, but I think.
Well, they either love it because it's like, oh, finally here's like a movie that depicts at its core the crucifixion, the very center of our religion, or they hate it because, well, violence, it sure ain't. It sure don't align with our Christian values. And the reason I don't like it is because I do think it is a bit excessive with its violence and its length, and I resent being shown it at a young age, and I
Right.
I feel bad for any kid who has to sit down with their grandparents and watch this movie because, oh my god, traumatizing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that a lot of Christian filmmakers on an independent level decided that this was like the last straw and they needed to make some good, decent Christian movies.
Yeah.
Which I think brings us to the Kendrick brothers.
The Kendrick brothers, exactly.
Alex Kendrick and Stephen Kendrick. And their first big hit, Fireproof.
Yeah.
This is a 2008 movie. And sticking with the Trump prophecy, it is also about a firefighter.
yeah. I noticed that. I was like, I
guess firefighting is like the chosen career of Christians or something. I don't know.
I guess so.
Because fire is like the tool of Satan or something. I don't know.
Man, it beats me. All I know is that these movies they progressively got worse. Like, they were never good, but you know, their first movie they ever made called Flywheel, about like a car salesman who I think he like finds Jesus, and there's like an allegory for like the flywheel in a car is like what makes the car like run. Without a flywheel, a car won't run, and they do a whole metaphor and whatever. And anyway,
oh my god,
yeah, I know. I remember watching it years and years ago, but Flywheel was their first one. Did you just fall on your desk?
No, I accidentally tapped the pop filter.
No, you're good. Sounded like your head just like hit the fucking desk.
It was because of Flywheel.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, they made Flywheel. But get this, they made it for $50,000.
Holy,
which is probably really. Actually, not probably. I know it's like inspiring to a lot of people. Like, wow, they like people like the Kendrick brothers aren't even filmmakers. They're pastors, from what if I do remember correctly, or they're like members of like a big church and whatnot. And they managed to get $50,000 to make Flywheel, and then they got around $100,000 to make Facing the Giants, which was what got them like notoriety, which is the football movie, which is probably the least worst of all, or the least awful out of all of them that I've seen. I remember actually Facing the Giants not being like awful. Like, yeah, it's a bad movie, but like it could have been a lot worse, I guess. Flywheel was worse than it. And then after that, they did Fireproof, and
Okay, so that's like their third.
yeah, it's
movie.
their third. But
I was under the impression it was like their first.
oh no, they did Flywheel and Facing the Giants first. Facing the Giants was that was a big hit for them. But you're right in saying Fireproof was what really got them famous, because Fireproof had like, I think it was like a $5 million budget or like $10 million.
No, 500,000.
Oh, 500,000. Okay, sorry.
But what happened is it made $33 million, which is like 66 times
right
their budget. Like they made their budget back so many times over, and it was actually like the highest grossing indie movie of 2008, which it feels weird to call this movie an indie movie, but I mean, they did do it on their own, and only like through like evangelical organizations were they able to spread it as efficiently as they did.
Yeah.
And this one is like the first that I feel like is really heavy-handed with like what modern Christians believe. You know, they're under the impression that like pornography and sex is like terrible. So at the center of this movie, the firefighter is like struggling with his porn addiction. It's so sinful, but he loves jerking it online. You know, he's on Pornhub, he's on RedTube, he's on xxx.videos, Simpsons homegrown stuff. That's a quote from I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. Great show. But he from what I understand, he's just so addicted to porn he can't even function, and so his wife's leaving him, and you know, God compels him to destroy his computer, and his wife still files for divorce. But then, because he's a good Christian by the end of the movie, and you know,
they renew their
Christians
vows.
believe you go through confession. They renew their vows and they get married. And so a lot of this plot sounds interesting on paper, but it's worth noting that critics hated this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's the Austin Chronicle criticized the movie, saying that it makes for fruitful soul fishing but lousy drama. Fireproof stops becoming relatable to us all and only to the already or easily indoctrinated. And while it's hardly sophisticated in its approach and certainly not polished in its technical elements, the film does get the heartfelt message across with undeniable sincerity. The Hollywood Reporter actually liked it, it seems like.
Oh.
Wow.
That's interesting.
But it does have a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, so
yeah.
I would say that most of the people don't like this movie.
Yeah.
And I think it is because of how the Hollywood Reporter just admitted right there. They don't really try in these movies with the technical element. Like, I think every modern Christian movie I've seen has been terribly shot and directed, and most of all, paced. Like, I don't think any of these movies are very, very exciting, and they all seem to be like 2 hours long, whether they need to be or not, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is newer Christian media, you know, since the '90s or since the late '90s, early 2000s, has been more about preaching a message than making a film. The Kendrick brothers have no idea what film entails. They have no idea, like, that. I don't even think they know that it's an art form. Honestly, I don't really think they do. They're using it
by their own admission. They're not filmmakers, right?
Literally, by their own admission, like, they're not, like, and they just wanted to make, like, and I'm not bashing on them just because they, you know, back in 2003 they decided to get $50,000 together to make their own little like their own indie movie. Like, I'm not, like, that's fine, but now they've got budgets in the millions. Like, their newest movie, like Overcomer, I think, was like, had like a $50 million budget.
That's insane.
I know, and at a certain point you have to start thinking, and they have to be criticized now, because what started as like them making movies mainly like to maybe preach a message, they're trying to pass off as films with merit, that have merit to them, that they want people to watch, and it's it's bad. Like, there's no real story to like new Christian movies, and it's just preaching a message. And if you want to preach a message, then you go to church and you hear a message, or you read about it. But if you want to get a message across in an art form like film, you have to know, you have to dig deep and figure out what film is first. And they have not the slightest clue. From all the Kendrick Brothers movies that I've seen, and I think I've seen 4 of them. They don't. They haven't learned at all. Which brings me to our biggest offender of new Christian media, which is God's Not Dead. All 3 iterations.
This is definitely where, like, as you're saying, like, if Christian movies, like, as a whole weren't interested in making a movie anymore and more so giving a message, God's Not Dead is where they weren't even concerned with, like, giving a good message anymore, so much as, like, trying to prove a point to, like, people outside of the religion, like, this is bad what you're doing. This is bad. And we hate people who disagree with us. Because God's Not Dead is it's not even veiled, like, look at, like, education. Like, Christians disagree with the education system because it doesn't teach what Christians would prefer they would teach. And, like, the thing is, like, back in the day with Ben-Hur and 10 Commandments, like, these movies are getting made because directors who happen to be Christian are just telling stories from their religion, and it's an open view for anyone to look in there. Like, I love Prince of Egypt. I love movies like that because they're just pure movies, and you can experience those stories and really appreciate them for what they are. What's so infuriating about modern Christian movies is that, even other Christians at this point are like, guys,
yeah, right.
we need to like get back on track. What is this? Because God's Not Dead is the ultimate. What is the point of this movie? Like, I think the premise is like the student takes one class and it's like the most heavy-handed shit ever. Like, the professor's just like, now write in your book that God is dead, which, by the way, happens at no universities. None of them.
I actually watched God's Not Dead. I was dragged to the theater to see it, and I can tell you.
Did you watch it for Duck Dynasty guy?
My brother only wanted to watch it for the Duck Dynasty guy, but no. It's like, you can hear about God's Not Dead and think like, oh, it's so stupid. But honestly, you need to watch it. Honestly, just watch it, because it is heinous. He literally, the first day of class, he hands them what it is. It's a slip of paper, like something your parents would have to sign, but he's making the students sign it so that they don't have any, because he's going to be talking about like the Big Bang Theory and evolution. And he talks about, like, he says, we're going to teach this class this way, and just to like basically dissuade people from arguing with me about like creationism versus evolutionism, or evolution. Sign this paper that says that God is dead. Which is, okay, first of all, would never happen in a college, university setting, because that's not allowed. Like, you can't do that. You can't.
Religious persecution is just something that is not allowed at most universities. I'm sure at like several privatized Christian universities, like, a Muslim student wouldn't be welcome. So maybe we'll see that in like that category, but. In public school, religious persecution is not allowed, and it just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah,
like,
no. I've literally never been. I've never seen or been persecuted at college for religion, and I haven't persecuted anybody. Like, there's like a huge like stigmatism to. Wait, is that the word, or is it stigma? It's stigma. I said stigmatism. That's the I thing. I'm so stupid.
Hey, that's okay.
Anyway, there's a huge stigma with Christians and how they view college universities. I grew up thinking that college was going to be like a tough road for me. Turns out college has been like the best thing in my life. And God's Not Dead just like persuades, young Christian people to not go to college and instead go to like a Christian college where they won't be persecuted or, just maligned for their views. And that's just not how, it's just not true. And
it's fear mongering.
it is.
Like
it
that's truly like the basis of like conservative Christianity is fear mongering. Like if you go and do this, if you open up to these people, they'll send you to hell essentially. Like
Right.
you're on the path of sin and you're on the path of Satan. Like you need to like keep your mind closed to those ideologies and like consume more Christianity
Yeah.
like led institutions. Like it's not very surprising to me. I listened to a podcast this year about like guns rights in America, and oddly Christians have become the main champions of gun rights in America. Like most gun movements are led by Christians because a lot of them believe that it is their God-given right to own a weapon. But in that podcast, they talked about this Reformation movement that a lot of Christians are leading, which is to completely destroy public schooling and replace it with Christian-based schooling. And I think that movies like God's Not Dead and like movies like The Trump Prophecy are Christian fear-mongering at its worst to promote a belief that most Christians don't even share, which is that we should reform all of our public institutions
Yeah.
to be led by Christians. Like that has never been the point of this religion.
Yeah.
I feel like.
No. And Christian people will tell you that like real, like they don't, there's, it's, I'm like losing my words here just because it baffles me like so much. Like I have a lot of like I grew up like Christian, like I have all my family is Christian, and I obviously still have the values and stuff. But like growing up around it, and I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
It pains me because like at its core, it's not at all what the religion is about, and it has been so misconstrued and it like people that have such a negative view of Christianity, when honestly if you really look at Christianity, it shouldn't be like this negative of a religion. It's not about that, like God's Not Dead. That's not Christianity. Fireproof, facing the giant, all that stuff. Especially the Trump prophecy. It's not what it's supposed to be about. It's not even a good message that's preached.
Yeah, Trump prophecy would argue that like, we're supposed to blindly support like things mentioned in the Bible, like Israel. Like they literally, the ending of the Trump prophecy is 30 minutes of interviews about the Israel-Palestine situation, how now that Trump's in office, he's going to back Israel. They completely take out any nuance in that situation, and they say like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be. We need to go to war with Palestine because, in the Bible, the Israelites are the chosen people of God. And it's like, you don't actually believe that way. Like, you're playing this at an angle. You profit directly off of war with Palestine. And, like, I think that's the thing that's sickening about a lot of these Christian movies is that, it's not Christianity, and yet it's going under the guise of that, while really it's a way for the people making these movies to, like, make money off of a cheap message. Like, I sincerely doubt that every Christian filmmaker making movies like this are that devout, like
Yeah.
I bet a lot of them do it because it is an easy buck. You know, these movies make money at the box office, and they push that message even further, that like all other media is bad. You've got to stick to Christians. Like, that's why there's that streaming service, PureFlix. You know, because they're pushing this agenda that like you need to consume strictly Christian media. Everything else is sinful, and that's how you get terrible content.
Right.
Like the stuff on PureFlix.
I think honestly this is like what we're talking about is summed up perfectly with a quote by C.S. Lewis, who did Chronicles of Narnia. He once said, "We don't need Christians writing more Christian books. We need more Christians writing good literature." Which literally is like our thesis of, you know, like what we've been talking about. It's not that Christians can't make good movies. It's that they choose to preach a message over making a good film first and foremost, or writing a good book. It's just what you would hear on a Sunday, you know, morning or a Wednesday night kind of message, poorly translated over into another medium. And yeah, I mean,
I think feigning persecution is like a big issue with this. You know, like Christians act like they are a lot of Christians act like they are the most persecuted religious group in the world.
Yeah.
And like, just admit that like it bugs you that other religions and other ideas are being put out there, and then stay out of it. Like, don't make media strictly to shut down other people's views, because it shows, and it's not good. Like, you know, that's what makes these movies so bad, is they're so heavy-handed, and they're so they don't even hide like the spite that they have for other ideologies.
Yeah.
Like, we do need to return to like a time where Christians are just making like good films or good speeches. You know, you don't have to have it this way. And I think that's the thing I really want to stress, is I don't think that Christianity is a bad religion. I don't think that Christian film is doomed to this like to this purgatory it's in right now, this living hell that it seems like I do think that if we you know, screw our heads on straight, and we see Christian filmmakers like actually return to like trying to make legitimate movies, you know, I think it could turn out well. Like, just tell a story, don't shout at me.
Right. There's like, and there's still glimmers of like of like Christian like messages in film that like Christians don't even realize, because I don't think, and this is not like me trying to say that, I'm not saying Christians are stupid. I'm saying a lot of them don't really know how to read film, you know? So like, for example, like, I mean, I guess like, I mean, it's not hard to get like a movie like Hacksaw Ridge, which is a very like Christian movie, was not even given a thought by the Christian community. Like, I had my parents watch it and they liked it, but nobody else watched it because there's like language in it, or because there's too much blood, or there's too much killing. And movies like Silence by Martin Scorsese, that's another one. Nobody watched it. Or like, not that nobody watched it, but no Christians talked about it, because a guy gets decapitated, or there's also cursing in it or something, or maybe they didn't like it because it's literally about a guy having his faith tested, and it's kind of not maybe the happy ending that they would expect. Like, it's just, if they would just like know, like, if branch out, you know, into the secular world of film, there's a lot of good movies that still get made that have like Christian, you know, themes and values, and that I would argue that they would actually like, if they would just get out of the mindset of just wanting to hear something preached like on a Sunday morning, in movie form. Like, It's so bad. That is so bad. Yeah. Like, I can't even fathom it. Like, I hate it so much. It's the story and the writing of new Christian media is so bad.
It's also, and I mean, I know we're going a little bit over, so I'll try and wrap this up soon. But it's also predominantly white, and it's so hard to look away from the fact that most Christian movies are like mayonnaise in film form.
Yeah.
Like, would it hurt you to like go like the African American community is heavily involved in the church, like especially in the South. Like, you know, in Georgia, we've just had our first black senator elected to office, Raphael Warnock, who is a pastor. Like, is it so hard to find voices, like black voices like that, to like help you make your movies?
Right.
Like, no one is forcing you to cast like all white people in your movies. And no, having a token black character does not count. It does not make your movie diverse.
Right.
Like, just because the best friend character is black and he says, yes, I love Jesus too, that does not make your movie diverse. It's still a white screenwriter, it's still a white director, and you clearly only cast him because maybe you thought about diversity for like a split second. Like, that's not representation though.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I agree. One other thing. I know we're getting, you know, a little stretched for time, but I have to mention there was one Christian movie that I watched that I actually enjoyed because it wasn't necessarily about preaching a message. It was actually just it had a good story, and it was based on a true story about a football player that was actually from Harrison, Arkansas.
Oh, I know this. I know this one.
It's called Greater.
Oh, never mind. I thought you were going to talk about The Blind Side.
Oh, no.
I never saw it.
No.
I didn't know.
No, Greater was made here in Arkansas. It was an indie film for a smaller budget, but it actually just got put onto Netflix, I think. It's because it's literally, it was a football player that he was a really good football player, and he happened to be like a Christian, and he died tragically in a car accident. But the movie is about him being a Christian, going into the football world and like trying to like keep his like beliefs and stuff when they're like tested. And there's, from what I remember, I don't believe there's a whole lot of heavy-handed like messaging in it, and it's literally just about the life of this kid who died like at a very young age. I think he was like 20, like 23, 24 or something. But he was like, it's like an underdog story, basically. He was like the underdog, and he made it into this like prestige, like Arkansas, like football team. Anyway, I remember it was just kind of good. And I was like, you know what? This actually wasn't half bad. Like, if we could just, you know, do what they did, they focused more on a character, you know, and in a character's journey rather than sending people a message. Like, there was no defined, you know, message in that, or like can't think of what the word is, but yeah, anyway, that one was kind of good. I like that one. Of course, although it has been like 4 or 5 years since I've seen it, so it warrants me another rewatch. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there because I just remembered that. So
okay, well, dang. Oh, well, maybe I'll watch it. Probably not, but
right.
That sounds better than all the other stuff we've been talking about, to be honest.
Well, guys, let us know in the Twitter what's the worst Christian media movie that you've ever seen,
or any good ones.
Or
you know, if you can think of
There's
any.
some good ones out there, old or new. Yeah.
Let us know, man.
Yeah. This has been an enlightening episode. Haha, ching.
This has been a very sinful episode. You know, Casey, I'll see you in hell. You've been a couple times, but you know, apparently we've died a few times on the podcast. But you know, why not? Oh, dude, you know what I just noticed? We're already there. Dun dun dun.